Welcome back to our training course on the Corporate Transparency Act. This video is all about tips and tricks on how to apply and make this process as simple as possible. This portion of this video is specifically directed on helping you the pre-planning stage before you actually sit down to file that report. My biggest tip that I could recommend is just getting prepared ahead of time, right? We spent a good 10 to 12 minutes just discussing what is a beneficial owner. You really should spend time doing those calculations, figuring out who do I actually need to report and who do I not need to report. And then going to those individuals and getting all that ownership documentation. We need their full legal name. You need their physical mailing address. Where can we physically find those individuals? Their date of birth, and you will need to get their driver's license or passport. Alternatively, you can direct them to go get a FinCEN ID number. This is especially going to be helpful if they don't want to give you their driver's license or ID, their passport, totally understandable. Or if you have someone that owns multiple businesses, manages multiple entities, there's multiple things that they need to report, it's better for them just to get a FinCEN ID, and then that way it's just one time having to do that instead of having to re-upload those images over and over again. My next big tip that I have for you guys is understanding your deadlines. You know, we have a whole video just dedicated to this. You need to know when it is that you need to report so that you can be compliant. There are several categories. Again, if it's your company was formed before 2024, if the company was formed during 2024, if it was formed after 2024, and if there's any changes to your entities, you need to be aware what those deadlines are. Next, again, one thing I highly recommend is any of those beneficial owners or the company applicant, they should go on to FinCEN's website and get a FinCEN ID number. This is where they pre-apply. They give FinCEN their address, date of birth, and their identifying documentation. And then they just need to give you a FinCEN ID number. You don't need that information. You plug in the FinCEN ID number, and it's a much faster, smoother process for everybody. And last big tip I have is make sure you update your operating agreements or your bylaws if it's a corporation. This is especially important if you have multiple owners. The reason why I say this is because you want to give an update inside there to require any members and managers to provide you with their ID or the FinCEN ID and make sure that they know that they are under a duty and a requirement to update you when they move, so that your company is always FinCEN compliant. There is actually, ironically, no law right now that requires members and managers to do this information. So the company can be at risk if you have a member or a manager or a company owner that refuses to give you this information. The company is still going to be liable for those penalties. And so it can take away from profits. So if you update your operating agreement to put in these affirmative duties, you at least now have legal recourse where they are now going to indemnify the company to give this information. And if they don't, they're going to be responsible for the penalties, not the company. To me, that's going to be more fair to all the other owners, because why, if I owned a business with other people, why should I be incurring a penalty if Joe Schmo over here refuses to give his ID? So that is a huge update that I think you guys should all consider. If you have these things in line before you sit down to apply for the CTA, it'll make the process so much smoother and faster.